Hi everybody, my name is Puri and I'm from QuriousBytes. This is oh my god, I don't even know how many times I've tried to film this intro. It's been a process. But today I got to sit down and I got to talk to Dr. Christina Vu about pediatrics. We talked about CRISPR gene editing, we talked about COVID-19, and we talked about childhood obesity. And she threw in a little bit of advice for all you future doctors out there. If you are interested, please continue watching this video and go read articles.
Hi.
Hi!
Oh wait, can you not see me?
No.
I'm using my cell phone. Our computer doesn't have video capabilities,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, that's perfectly fine. But thank you so much for actually coming, and this is great.
It worked out. I had surprisingly a free afternoon, so I was like, perfect, we could do it today.
Yeah, so I just had like a couple topics that I had in mind, and I just wanted to get your
Sure.
thoughts on it. So I'm not going to bore you too long with this topic, but so like COVID's been going on for a while, and I can't really speak on behalf of adults, but for children, it's honestly been more of a, you know, it's been like challenging going from regular school and extracurriculars to social activities to like completely online, and it's honestly been a change for everyone. But what are some activities that we can incorporate in our lives so that we feel a little bit more productive and a little bit less stressed with what's going on?
I think that is such a great question because I've actually been seeing that a lot in the kids that I see, especially the teens. It's been such a hard transition to have everything change from how you expect it to and the lack of social activity. So, one, I think outside time is really important. So getting active in different ways, because again, when we're just staying at home and doing school, sitting in our seats all day, and we're not being out and about, our body's not moving the same way, and just like the lack of change, it's really draining on us. So that could be, depending on what you like, something as simple as like regular walks outside in the evening, maybe with a family member, or if you have a close friend that you can do in a safe way would be an option. But if you're into like sports or something more athletic, there are other ways you can do it, again, in a socially distanced manner that will get you out of the house and moving around and moving your body. I think that is really important just for your mental health. I think socially, I think we all need to have social contact, but it makes it really hard right now with COVID. So it's like finding safe ways to do it. But I think we need to try to be creative in ways. So, a lot of people have developed social pods, which I think are great. And I still think there are ways you can meet up with people in a safe way. So outdoor picnics, bike rides, things that you can do that are outdoor and more safe, but allows you to have some face-to-face contact, which I think is really, really important for our just our mental health.
Yeah, I think everyone's really missing it.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. It's a stressor to expose yourself more, but I think you can find ways to be creative. And I'm actually surprised that my patients telling me things that they've done with their friends. Like they said, they'll do certain sports that don't have as much contact, or they'll make dates outside that they can just really spend the day outside, but they're wearing masks. So I think there's ways around it where we can do it, but in a safe manner.
Yeah.
And then I think also this will vary from person to person, but finding things to look forward to, because I think that's one thing that we're all really missing right now is like this excitement of something that we're gonna do, because we're kind of like, oh, every day is the same, we don't get to do much. But again, whether that's like, you're younger and you like have a pumpkin patch that you're gonna do that's exciting, or you're gonna go and find a new hike, like we need to put these things into our schedules so that we really push ourselves and motivate ourselves to get out and have something that makes us feel like it's new and exciting again.
That honestly sounds great. So there's also been a lot of information in the news and in other sources about COVID and kids. What specific precautions should children take, and what types of pre-existing conditions pose as like the biggest type of risk?
So the precautions are the ones that we mainly have been talking about for any viral illness, right?
Yeah.
Hand washing, that is so important. So regular hand washing throughout the day, social distancing, and wearing your mask. And it seems silly, but those are really the things that are going to make a big difference. So trying to keep that 6 feet between us, wearing that mask consistently, those are things that really can help minimize the chance of getting COVID. Now, fortunately for children, so far we've been seeing that children's symptoms are more mild, and we're really thankful and grateful for that. But there are certain medical conditions that can put you at increased risk. So, particularly asthma can put you at increased risk, or any breathing issues can put you at increased risk. But we're also seeing that children are not, even with pre-existing conditions, having as significant symptoms as adults who've had pre-existing conditions. So the older generation, unfortunately, is going to be still our highest risk category.
Yeah. So it's mainly just respiratory illnesses that are a bit more at risk.
Yeah. And so in adults, there's more, right? Heart conditions, obesity, certainly there's a much higher list, but those are not things that we see as commonly in children. So diabetes, obesity, heart conditions for adults are things that we're more concerned about. And actually, you can find really great information on the CDC website about things that will be putting you at higher risk as well.
Actually, that was the perfect segue to my next topic. So I was going to actually talk about childhood obesity because it's such a huge issue in America, especially. So what exactly causes childhood obesity?
So obesity can be from a variety of factors. Some that we can't control, like genetics, and some that we can. And so you're right. We do see a rise in obesity, and it's a common thing I'm seeing in many children, and one that is really hard to treat and to fix because it takes a lot of changes in lifestyle. So when I see a patient with obesity, the main things that I talk about are things that we can change. Healthy eating and exercise, and it goes back down to those basics. And so in the US, the foods that we're eating and the portions that we're eating can set us up for obesity. And so I do a lot of counseling on what are the foods that are good for us and healthy for us, and what are things that we can change in our diet to help with our weight and control our weight gain. And so those are things that really have to take time to implement and can take some effort, but really can be effective if you are consistent with it. And activity and exercise. So I think as a society, we're more sedentary, right? We're doing a lot more screen time than we used to. We don't get out as much as we used to. And that can play a big role in our weight and can lead to obesity. So our goal and recommendation for kids is getting an hour of physical activity a day. And think about it, many people are far below that. So I really encourage my patients, get out, be active, exercise. That's really important for your body.
So it all goes back to those basic principles you talked about earlier of enforcing basic lifestyle changes.
And I think sometimes it seems silly when we do counseling. A lot of patients are surprised. A lot of things can be fixed by these basic lifestyle things. Good sleep, good diet, healthy eating, exercise, stress control. When those things are not in control, it can make a variety of symptoms, and it could make us feel really tired or feel really sick or set us up for obesity. So we always go back to those basics and work on those, and usually we keep our body healthy.
Yeah, makes sense. But what are the actual long-term side effects of obesity? Because I've heard there's a lot.
So for obesity, it can set you up for many medical conditions. So we get concerned about diabetes. So type 2 diabetes more specifically. So when you are more obese, you can be at risk for insulin resistance, which can cause diabetes. Heart conditions, so hypertension, heart attacks in the future, high cholesterol. Again, these many things can be related to going back to obesity and health, the diet concerns and lack of activity. So there are many conditions, and I think the hard part when you're a kid is that you don't really think about those things. These things are like adult things that you don't have to worry about, but actually these healthy habits that you're leading now can prevent things from developing, like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, hypertension. So that's why it's so important. That's why your pediatrician, like every year, asks you those questions to make sure that those things are okay.
So that's the purpose of like the whole blood pressure and all of that.
Yeah, that's why we do it. That's why we ask you guys about how you're eating. That's why we ask about exercise, because we're trying to be preventative. And that's a big part of pediatric medicine is preventative medicine. How do we keep you healthy and develop these healthy lifestyle goals to prevent you from getting medical conditions in the future? And they really can play a big role in your health.
So what prevention methods would you recommend to people who are suffering from childhood obesity?
Prevention methods? What do you mean by that?
So, well, if someone is on the rise, to childhood obesity or already has it, what method would you use to prevent other conditions from,
Okay. And so really, again, that goes back down to the basics that I talk about. So when I see someone who either is on the road to obesity or obese, then we do a lot of counseling. So I do a lot of dietary counseling. I do a lot of exercise counseling. And if they're sort of higher risk, then we also do lab work as well, because that can either show us or support if there's further concern for things like diabetes. So, for example, in an obese patient who may not have diabetes yet, we may already see some elevation in their sugar levels or elevation in their insulin, which show me that they're sort of on that road and could develop into diabetes. I'll call that pre-diabetes. Mm-hmm. So when I really see that, we have to have that conversation with the patients and the parents saying, hey, this is serious. Your blood work is already showing that your body's having a hard time processing that. So that's why we have to go back down to how can we make positive goals and changes for your diet to limit this rise, and so your body can really learn how to efficiently process food and process sugar. And then, of course, exercise, and then follow up, right? That's really important, because these are not things that we can just fix and they're like automatically fixed and they get changed and you have a perfect diet and exercise an hour every day. They're hard things, and I totally get that. So there's importance of like, okay, check in every couple months, see how you're doing, see what we can change. Maybe repeat labs in a year if they were concerning, so we can make sure, again, that we're on the right track. But just keeps going back to basics. Healthy eating, exercise, close follow-up.
So I'm going to switch topics again because there's so much I wanted to cover with you. So I had to, pick and choose pieces.
Yeah.
So you saw how Jennifer Doudna got the Nobel Prize for CRISPR, right?
No, I didn't.
So there was a scientist from UC Berkeley, and she actually got the Nobel Prize for some gene editing technology called CRISPR.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know if there are any pros and cons of gene editing, like that you know of?
So, definitely not my specialty. What kind of gene editing were they doing? For embryos or for...
So I believe it was adult gene editing that they were trying, so like adolescents and adults, but there was also some talk about embryo, and I believe that's a different part of the project. But I was going to ask about like the children aspect of it. Pros and cons.
So gene editing is certainly something that is very new and something that I think is maybe in our future, but not anything immediate. It really depends on what it is used for. I think that there can be some benefits to it for sure. It just depends again on what disease process they're looking at. Are they looking at more for treatment? I guess I would need to know more specific for what it was for. So I'm happy to look into that more and talk to you a little bit more after I read about it. But
sure, because I didn't have that much time to read about it myself because I'm still learning in AP Bio right now.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so this is like in the context of what we were doing in class a little bit.
Well, do you know what disease process the gene editing was being used for?
In embryos, it was used to prevent cystic fibrosis to some extent.
So in the use of that, I certainly think that it makes a lot of sense. If we know there's a known condition and we can edit the genes in a way that's only affecting the genes that would cause a disease process, certainly that would be an amazing thing for families who carry certain genes and want to have children who aren't affected by those certain disease processes. So I can imagine that if they can further develop that in a very safe way, it would be an amazing contribution. And things like cystic fibrosis is such a difficult disease, and that's something that people know if they carry the gene from testing. So it really would provide more opportunity for families to have kids that are healthy and without it. I think it does get controversial in the sense of how far we can go with gene editing, right? And so I think we'll kind of see that in the future, like how much should we be able to change? But in these certain settings, again, as mentioned, for a particular disease process, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it would provide a great benefit to many people that are struggling with maybe what genes they carry or what diseases they could possibly pass on to their child.
Yeah, honestly, I thought it was really cool. I have 2 last questions for you.
Sure.
And there are so many kids, especially in my school, who want to be doctors. What advice would you give them?
My advice would be to get experience in the medical field and to really know it is something that you want to pursue. I think we see sort of dramatized versions of medicine like on TV, and it's hard to know what the day-to-day is like. So I think as much as you can to do shadowing or get some experience where you really see what a doctor does on a day-to-day basis and see if it's something that you want to pursue. Because it is certainly a long road and a lot of school. It's absolutely very, very rewarding, but I think just knowing beforehand if it's what you really want before you completely go down that path.
Yeah. And one last question. In your journey as a doctor, what have been the ups and downs?
So I have been out of residency now for 5 years. So I've been practicing for 5 years. I think the biggest ups is being able to have my own patient panel and follow them like you, like being able to see how people grow and develop and be able to guide families through childhood and teens and adolescence. I mean, it's so rewarding to develop those relationships and to be a support and help to families. I think one down that I didn't expect is it also puts a lot of pressure on you. You know, you really want to take care of your patients and you want to do the best for them. But it can be very tiring. The days can be very long. Sometimes I see 20, 22 patients a day. And sometimes I bring those worries home about my patients, what's going on. But I think that any job that you're really invested in, you're going to feel those things. So I think that's normal, but I certainly wasn't expecting to have that sort of like worry and tiredness that I do. And doesn't mean I don't like my job. I do love my job, but it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Well, on my part, you have been probably the best doctor I've ever had, and it's been amazing seeing you the last 5 years. And I just want to thank you so much for, making time for this.
Sure, you're welcome.
And thank you to you and every single one of the healthcare workers that have kept us safe these last couple of months.
You are so welcome. Was there anything else I can help you with?
No, this has been great.
Okay. It was so good to see you. If you need anything else, just let me know, okay?
Oh, you too. Take care.
Bye.
If you made it that far, thank you for watching. I will try to make more entertaining content for you. That was my first time. I was a little nervous. I ended up looking like that Miley Cyrus Eminem meme. I'll insert it right after. But thank you for watching and stay curious.